Instagram, Minister with two T's. With us now, the founder, publisher, and editor-in-chief of ThursdayKos, the largest online progressive community, and they played a big role in the Blue Wave on Tuesday. Markos, Moulitsas. Markos, good morning, man. How are you?
Doing great. It's been a great week.
Hasn't
I haven't gotten caught up on my sleep or anything.
I know.
Long couple of years, but it feels good to have survived this cycle and emerged on this other side with the numbers that we did. It's pretty exciting, actually.
It is pretty exciting, as a matter of fact. I mean, these are some these were big wins the other night. First of all, just in terms of the House, we won the House. I don't know how anybody can spin that as anything other than a win. I mean, nobody ever said the Senate was a sure thing, right?
No, we've been talking for years, and I don't think once we said we're going to win the Senate. It was always sort of an outside possibility.
Yeah.
But it was never. I mean, the map was always horrible for us. And if we emerge, once all the votes are counted, we may actually emerge just having lost one seat. I mean, Florida's still in play. So I think what really kind of set a tone was that Florida goes early. And Florida is Florida, right?
Yeah.
Florida is a pain in the butt. And I think people were hoping that you'd see the sort of mass repudiation of Trump. But we knew Republicans weren't abandoning Trump. I mean, we've always known that, right? I mean, we've talked about that before, how the Republican Party has remade itself in Trump's image, and they absolutely love him. The base loves Trump. And so for us to have sort of the best case scenario would have been Republicans staying home, and Trump did a great job of ginning up that hate and fear. And you know what? You know who the worst people were about this? It wasn't even Fox News, Mark. It wasn't Rush Limbaugh. It was the CNN, the Washington Post, and the New York Times obsessing about the stupid caravan that they've already all forgotten. Just like they did with Ebola in 2014, just like they did with Hillary's emails in 2016. Trump has the ability, the Republicans have the ability to create fake crisis, and until our media learns how to just shrug that off and ignore it, we're going to have to keep dealing with that. That said, they may have turned out, but we turned out more. And we had the biggest disparity in turnout in I can't even remember the last time. We're still counting votes in California, but it's bigger than 2010 wave. It was bigger than 2014 and 2016. It looks like it's going to be about 9 points.
Yeah.
We had a snapback in the Midwest. We won 7 of the 8 big races in Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Again, Florida's Florida. It's going to be a recount in Florida. The places we lost are exactly the places that Trump does best in. White, rural, relatively poor states. Indiana, North Dakota, Missouri. And those are the places that Trump is going to win in 2020. And those are not the states that expand his base. In fact, he shrunk his base. We won bigger in Nevada than we did before.
Right.
California, we're sweeping. And, who cares about California? Say, yeah, but we're going to probably pick up about 5 or 6 House seats in California when we already had most of the House seats in California. Texas is now a purple state. It is unbelievable. And everybody looks at Beto, right? Oh, Beto lost. First of all, Beto should have never been competitive. This is Texas.
Right.
Second of all, it wasn't just Beto. We picked up a bunch of House seats. We picked up 7 seats in the Texas House. We picked up a bunch of seats in the Texas Senate. Now we actually have veto. We have filibuster power in the Texas legislature. We can finally get back to stopping legislation in Texas. We lost the lieutenant governor election by 4 points, 51-47. Again, we lost. It should have been competitive.
Right.
The Texas Attorney General's race, we lost by 3 points. Texas is now a purple state. And if anybody doesn't quite understand the magnitude of that, remember that Republicans cannot win anything pretty much, particularly the White House, but holding on to the Senate and things like that. Without Texas, they are in deep, deep trouble. The fact that they're going to have to spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars defending Texas in 2 years means that they cannot be spending that money in Pennsylvania and Michigan and other places that are going to be competitive. So essentially, Trump got stronger in states that they were already going to win.
That's already strong.
They did not put a single blue state in play, and they made purple states bluer. So any way you look at this, we won the House, of course, like you said. I mean, we didn't get to that. The House, that was the number one prize of the evening. It means we have subpoena power. It means we're going to finally see Donald Trump's tax returns. There's going to be accountability. And nobody should think impeachment, but we don't need impeachment because, we don't have the Senate. We're not going to impeach Donald Trump. But we can finally dig into all the juicy corruption that's been going on. That's not even getting into 50 new women of color in the U.S. House of Representatives. That's mind-blowing. It's talking about we picked up 8 state legislatures. We flipped 7 Senate governorships. Down the list, it is unbelievable how much. I think at the last count, we have over 350 state legislatures we flipped.
Wow.
We've heard
so
much during the Obama years that in the 8 years of Obama, 4 elections, that we lost 900 state legislators. And it's true. That freaking sucks. Well, we've gotten 350 of them back. There's still a bunch of counting going on. So it probably will be closer to 400. So we will have already, in just 2 years, clawed back almost half of the state legislatures that we lost in the Obama years. So no matter how you look at this, other than, we got rid of Wisconsin Governor, Scott Walker. So really, if you want to look at the evening, you go, okay, we didn't pick up the Senate. It was a terrible map, but it was all in that deep red, rural white, uneducated Trump territory. And Florida. And, of course, Florida, began the evening. And Florida's not over, guys. Florida's not over. And in fact, Bill Nelson, the Democrat, just got Mark Elias, who is the number one election lawyer in the country. It's like heavy, heavy firepower stuff. And Elias yesterday was hinting that there was big, big news going to come out of Florida today. Very, very cryptic. But I know I've heard from the Gillum camp that before they even got into into things like the provisional ballots and stuff, that they thought that the race might be as close as 15,000 votes. And I know that Gillum is running about 20,000 votes behind Bill Nelson. So if Gillum thinks he's only behind 15,000 votes, that would mean that Nelson's in the lead.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going on in Florida. Florida's going to Florida. I think we're have to just get used to Florida being Florida. But that's not over. And there's going to be a big recount, and that may get ugly and contentious. But this thing's not over. And all these tight races, there's a bunch of recounts happening. Things are falling in our favor. Yesterday, it was like every tight race was being called in the Democrats' favor. It's unbelievable. Right. We got Montana in the Senate.
Got Montana.
I think.
We got Nevada. What do we know about Arizona? Where is that over yet too, or is that still being counted?
No. So Arizona, the difference is about 35,000 votes.
Okay.
There are at least 500,000 outstanding votes to be counted. They're going to release the first tonight at 7 o'clock Pacific or 7 o'clock Mountain, I think local time. No, 7 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock your time. And they're going to release the first batch, and that supposedly is going to give people a good idea of where they're falling. It's all Maricopa County, which is a slightly Democratic county. Depends on, of course, where in Maricopa County. It's one of those where if you're talking Phoenix, you're in good shape. If you're talking suburbs, we're winning the suburbs. There's big realignment points that we've seen this election, that Democrats are winning the suburbs. If you're talking about the rural areas of the district, then it's a little tougher. So we don't quite know exactly where these outstanding ballots are. But at least there's 500,000 in Maricopa County, and supposedly there's about 1 million statewide. So that's a third of the votes still out there. So who knows where that's going to land?
Yeah.
But I feel good. I feel good about that. So we'll be complaining about sending money next year. But for now, I want to win that seat.
So
I want to earn the right to complain about her.
I know what you mean, right? That's right. You have been saying that about Kirsten, y'all. She's a blue dog. Um, but now we can say that this was a legitimate blue wave. There's some trying to take that from us, but this from everything you described, this is actually a blue wave.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think that argument is a little ridiculous, and it doesn't help that maybe expectations were higher. People were hoping for the national repudiation of Trump. And I think we just need to come to terms with the fact that, 40% of the country is going to be Trumpian no matter what. They're going to be racist and xenophobic and selfish and bullies, and there's nothing we can do about that. All we can do is worry about the part of the other half of the country that is compassionate and intelligent and we got that vote out. And unfortunately, it doesn't extend to North Dakota, Indiana, and Missouri. And luck to our liberal friends in those states that are fighting a good fight. I think we'll be able to turn it around over the long haul, just like our friends in Texas are doing. But the fact is that the map was terrible. Even the House map, this is what people don't realize, right? We're going to win when it's all about between 35 and 40 seats in the House. In a House that was specifically drawn to keep Democrats from taking control. And yet we're going to, we picked up 40, between 30 and 40 seats in that environment. I mean, I don't think people realize what kind of magnitude of accomplishment that is. Now, I saw somebody argue that it wasn't so much a wave as a realignment. And call it a wave, don't cares. But actually, the realignment thing makes a lot of sense. It's actually, I think that's pretty legit. So whether it's a wave or not, fact is, rural America has really doubled down on Trump, and urban America is more Democratic than ever, and truly, finally turning out. We had record youth turnout. We had record Latino turnout. African Americans turned out at their level of the population. So we're making ground with our core. But
now, Markos,
really shifted.
Where are you seeing the record youth? Because I haven't found that number. I mean, I believe you, but when you say record youth, what's the number what number are you working with?
I'm working with what we saw in the early vote and preliminary exit polling. So you're right. It's all very early. So there's still a lot of analysis and studies to be done. So I may have to retract that in the future. But particularly the early vote was dramatically younger, and in the terms of 2 to 5 times as large. I know in Tennessee it was 25 times the number. Now keep in mind we're talking from a small base, right? So it's easier if you have 100 young people vote. It's easier to get to 200.
Right.
But still, it's the early indications particularly from the early vote were pretty good. And you don't get to where we do in Texas without a strong early showing. So yeah, we'll confirm. We can talk about it next week, and we'll see where things stand. But no, comes out. But the big factor, the big thing that changed though is the suburbs. And if we lock down the suburbs for the Democrats, it makes the Republicans hold on power at all levels incredibly shaky. And keep in mind, we're winning these governorships, we're winning these legislative seats right in the cusp of 2020. We're going to have control of the redistricting process.
That's right.
In a lot more places than we did in 2010. Right. So we can maybe even lock down the House for the next 10 years.
Yeah. No, that's great, and that's what we need to do. So, folks, this is big. 9 points in terms of the margin, and I don't know when was the last time we were 9 points in the margin for the midterm. I'm looking at these numbers right in front of me. 94 Republicans were 7. 06 Democrats were 8. 2010 Republicans were 7 again. 2014 Republicans were 5.7, and then in 2018 9 and above. When was anybody over 9? When was the last time anybody was over 9 points? Markos, do we know?
Not in the midterm. I mean, I haven't seen that number. It's been a while. I was seeing numbers like in the 60s. I mean, it was something kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
So we'll know California, and Washington and Oregon, but mostly California because it's so big. The vote by mail is counted. You can mail the ballot on election day. As long as it's mailed by election day, it's going to count. So you basically have this rolling wave of hundreds of thousands to millions of ballots for a couple of weeks in the West Coast. So we're not going to know the final turnout number until probably, giving time. And then that's when we'll be able to really do a good comparison with past election cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So the number's already huge, and it's just going to be growing by the day.
Well, so let me ask you this. We looked at what Beto did. That makes Texas purple. Is what Stacey Abrams is doing and still doing, does that make, Georgia, I know it's a long way from purple, but is Georgia now purple-ish?
I would say it's a long way from purple. I think it's already purple.
Okay.
Obama only lost it by 5 points in 2008.
Yeah.
And it's clear, and that's another disappointment. I think losing Beto, Abrams in the Florida races on election night, I think that sort of cast a down, down. I would beating Walker, beating Cole back. It's already purple. We had great victories. Of course, just winning the House, but I think key marquee races, which were never easy races.
Oh yeah.
And nobody claimed that they were easy races. And the reason they were so exciting is because we were like, holy crap, we're competing in Texas.
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen.
That was part of the
in
reason
studio
that we were
with
so
me
excited about that. Not because
the mighty
OJ running in New York.
Hey,
like,
yo,
how you doing?
But it
You said
would have
3
been the
times,
same
right?
sort of
Yeah, mighty.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
the fact is, Abrams lost. If she lost, because we're still counting votes, if she lost by the margin of voter suppression.
Mm-hmm. She did.
They cannot. She did. What we just saw in Georgia is that Republicans cannot win a fair fight.
Mm-hmm.
And even in Florida, if we may still pull it off. Votes are going to be counted. But even if we don't, we passed Measure 4, which just enfranchised 1.4 million people, former felons. That is an expansion of the franchise since the women's suffrage movement. And it basically pumps 1.4 million new potential voters into the system in Florida, and that will scramble the electoral picture in Florida. It will help us. And if I was a billionaire, and unfortunately I'm not, if I was a billionaire, I'd be pumping $100 million into making sure that all those formerly disenfranchised voters, and most of them were they're like BS drug charges, right? We're not talking violent felons. They're not. This doesn't cover violent felons. This covers the BS that we've seen, the disparity in sentencing, and I'd be spending $100 million registering those individuals and Puerto Ricans from the island,
right?
Who basically are
who've relocated, yeah. Yeah, but I'll just say this to you. The audience has heard me say it ad nauseum, but I haven't said it to you yet. I think there's still some funny business in Florida because I find it hard to believe that the vast majority of Florida voters voted in a compassionate way to restore ex-felon voting rights and to vote to end dog racing, and yet voted for DeSantis at the same time. That.
Oh, you want to know some funny business in Broward? Oh, actually, in I think all of Florida, the Agriculture Commission job or position got more votes than the Senate. So the Democrat running for Ag Commissioner is actually much closer to winning, got more votes than in the Senate race. So how does that quite happen? I think in Broward, there's about a 30,000 vote differential between Commissioner and the Senate race, and
what?
Nobody is undervoting the Senate race. That's the
they're gonna vote more for the now see, there it is right there. They're gonna vote more for the Agricultural Commissioner than the Senate. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, there's something funny going on right there.
And there's gonna be, what happens, and we're just when it's not a close race, all this stuff sort of gets lost. All the small bits of incompetence, the errors. But when you start looking at it with a microscope, and we're not going to let them do what they did in 2000 in Florida. We're not going to let them bully a stop to the vote count.
That's right.
So we're going to really get a really close look at that Florida electoral system. We're going to see how many votes crop up that hadn't cropped up on election day, and it may not go our way. You know, so we're going to count the votes, and we're going to see what the final say is. But we're going to make sure that those votes are counted.
Yeah. Folks, big day on Tuesday. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Let me get a quick call in before we run. Charles is in Florida. Charles, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke. Big blue wave. Charles, get ready for impeachment. You're on there with Markos, Moulitsas. Go right ahead, Charles. Quickly, please.
Yes, you're right. What you just said. Don't be feeling any type of way about Tuesday because we rock the vote. I mean, we made him so mad he fired Sessions yesterday. That's the only reason why he fired Sessions. You know, no, seriously.
Yeah.
And all this line about all the great stuff he did as far as helping his candidates get over the line. Those are the same people that was in his in the states that he won by double digits. So that was a guarantee anyway. So what I like to say is, you might get mad at me, but I'm glad that some of these Democrats lost in those red states, those senators, because they were voting Republican anyway. And as far as
not all the time.
Well, not all the time, but I mean, hey, I just think they need to stop that. McCaskill, Highcamp, Manchin, I just think they really need to stop that.
Well, Manchin won.
Look at what
Manchin won. Heidi sacrificed her seat to stand up against Kavanaugh, and you know Claire could be all over the place at times.
Yeah, but if they didn't do that thing to those Indians, she probably would have won. And look at Beto. Beto flipped 12 Texas House seats. He flipped 2 state Senate seats.
Yeah.
So I mean, what I'm trying to say is, liberals can be successful in these
right, and not
right now.
I think what y'all saying, Markos, people won who were true liberals and progressives without blue dogging.
Well, you know, all kinds of Democrats won, to be fully fair. I mean, it's your district. You got to be able to represent your district. West Virginia went to Trump by 40 points. I know people kept saying Ojeda is running Ojeda, I guess you pronounce his name, was running a very progressive campaign, and that you could win that way in West Virginia. Well, he lost by 12 points, right? It's West Virginia. It's full of white racist people. I mean, it's tough. That said, I do love how Trump sent a tweet about his great victory and then immediately changed the subject.
Yeah, he did.
Hillary had a great victory. Had he truly known it, he would have absolutely still be talking about it. Why wouldn't he?
He would.
Talking about it all week.
Right, he would.
Rubbing it in her face. So it's clear that they know that what's coming is
that's right.
It's going to be pretty difficult. And to me, it's not even. To me, it's all. It's, you know, I'm always an incrementalist. I know people hate the idea of having to slowly build power, but that's how we didn't win overnight. They were working on winning school boards and county commissioner seats well before 1994, before the Green Bush Revolution.
Yeah.
So they've always slowly built power, built a bench, and our bench right now in the House is unbelievable. And even some of these candidates who didn't win, like Amy McGrath, she was the helicopter pilot in Kentucky.
She's great.
Who did not lose by much. She's freaking amazing, and I hope she runs in 2020. I mean, we found some unbelievable people. The majority of our winners are women. The Nevada state legislature is now majority female. It's the first majority female legislature in the country. We are building something absolutely incredible. There are 100 new women in Congress. 50 of them are women of color. I mean, these numbers are just absolutely mind-blowing.
Blue wave, and a pink wave. That's right. A blue wave and a pink wave.
And we're gonna. This is just step one. I mean, we're gonna get to do this again in 2020.
That's right. We'll do it again. Markos Moulitsas, founder, publisher, editor-in-chief of ThursdayKos. Thank you, Markos. Congratulations, man, and congratulations to ThursdayKos for all of their endorsed candidates and all the hard work they did too. All right, man. Thank you, buddy. We'll talk next week.
Have a great weekend.
You do the same.
Have a great one.
All right, folks. The mighty, mighty, mighty OJs above the law, appropriate in light of Mueller's, in light of Sessions' file. Might have been Freud, and I said Mueller. Stay tuned. This is MIP.